Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beth Hersher. I'm the Quality Improvement Advisor for QSource of Tennessee. And on behalf of our Quality Innovation Network, Adam Alliance, we certainly want to thank you for your time and participation on our Career Coach Training webinar today. Before we get started, we are utilizing some new technology, as you can probably hear, so we're all getting used to the functionality of our conferencing line. And I'm going to have Julie Clark review just some general housekeeping with everyone about how we're going to operate the phone line and review the chat box feature of WebEx today. We do want this to be an interactive and engaging conference for you today. So, Julie, would you please share with us those phone line instructions?
Sure, Beth. Okay, guys, I have muted everyone's phone lines at this time. This will provide a better listening environment for all of us, and it'll omit those background noises. We will open the phone lines back up at the end of today's webinar for questions and answers and any comments you might have. But during the webinar, if you have a thought or a question that you'd like to express while the speaker is in the middle of their presentation, we do have a chat feature. And the box for this is a drop-down box that should be showing up on the right-hand side of your screen or at the top of your screen. On mine right now, it's off to the right. I'd like you to find that chat box right now. Many of you have already put something in there. I want to bring to your attention a couple of things on chat. You can send your messages to all attendees, which is what it's set up to do automatically. You can also hit the little arrow to the right of the box that says all attendees, and it will give you a list of the organizers that are on the call today. Our Quality Improvement Advisor in Kentucky, Scott Gibson, will be watching the chat box for us today and providing any answers throughout the webinar if it's something that he can answer. And then he'll also be letting us know at the end of the presentation if we have any questions in there. So if you feel like you want to express something maybe privately, just select Scott's name, Scott Gibson, and then you can send your message just to him. Our presenters today are going to be asking you to use this chat feature to share some information with us. We want you to stay engaged, so that's one of the things we will be doing. Another new event that's going to happen in the webinar today is the polling questions, and you may have heard us talking a little bit about that. The polling questions are going to happen throughout the presentation during some of the information that's being shared in each of the segments. At the point when we have the polling questions, WebEx will open the box for the polling question. You'll have about 30 seconds to answer it. You'll select your answer and then make sure to hit submit so that it gets to them. And after a few moments, I think it's about 20 seconds, we will all see the results to those polling questions. It's anonymous. We won't know who chose what, so it's just kind of a fun way to get some feedback from you. Okay, so at this point, I want to make sure that everyone has found that chat feature and they know how to use it. So if you would, post what state are you calling in from today in the chat box and then hit send. That way we can see that you understand that process. I think that's it, Beth, and I can turn the floor back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Julie. So if we'll go to the next slide, what we thought we would do is just do a little overview of our Adam Alliance and our partners that make up Adam Alliance. And if we can just advance to the next slide, I think maybe the page up key there now. Just bear with us just a moment. We seem to be having some trouble, Jennifer, with advancing the slides. Does Kim have the control?
Yes, she does.
So are you using your page up button? Can you click in the
If you click the slides and then use the page up or page down keys, you just need to select the slides by left clicking.
Is there a way to pass me the control? see.
Kim will need to do that.
Okay, can you pass me? Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Let's do just a little review again of those of you that may not know about our reorganization that has occurred within our quality improvement organization. I do want to just give you a little bit of a review of that. CMS did regionalize our QIO program as part of this current scope of work. Instead of there being one QIO in each state, we now have 14 regions across the nation. And ADAM Alliance is is one of those 4 regions. And our ADAM Alliance is comprised of 3 partners. We are referred to now as Quality Innovation Network. And our partners within our region are QSource of Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then we also are subcontracting with IQH of Mississippi and AQUAF of Alabama. So the regional approach allows the Quality Innovation Network to maximize efficiencies and resources. We hope to cut some costs and provide greater value in the way that we provide information to you, the provider. One example of that is Alabama is serving as our subject matter expert for our ADAM Alliance. And Alabama has had some great success within their state with their nursing home providers, great work that's been happening there. So as I shared with you, that is one way that we're sharing efficiencies across our alliance, and we are very excited to have Alabama as part of our partnership. So just a welcome from the ADAM Alliance Nursing Home team. I'm sure most of you that are on the webinar with us today recognize a lot of these folks. In Alabama, we have Liz Prosh and Beth Green. Indiana, Kathy Heibarger and Kara Dawson. Scott Gibson out of Kentucky. May McDaniel is with us on today from Mississippi. Myself, Beth Hersher, and Julie Clark from Tennessee. So on behalf of the whole ADAM Alliance nursing home team, we certainly welcome you. We held a webinar a couple of weeks ago that served as an orientation for our peer coaches. So we wanted to just share a couple of the points that were highlighted during that webinar in the event that you were unable to be on that webinar a few weeks ago. We are building a peer coaching program that is part of our work that we'll be doing in this 11th scope of work. And you were selected as a peer coach because you were in the top 10% of the National Nursing Home Quality Composite Score. We are asking you that you form a peer coach team within your nursing home facility. We hope that you're looking at a diverse set of staff within your nursing home. That might look like a great CNA that is going to champion best expertise that they have in their direct care that they provide, or it may be that you've got a passionate MDS coordinator. So we are hoping that you take a look within your nursing homes to pull in some champions within your peer coach team. We also hope that you're able to identify at least one resident or a family member to be a part of this peer coach team as well. The purpose of this program is that you will be serving an integral part of our nursing home healthcare community to help ADAM Alliance promote quality improvement and provide support among those nursing home peers that you have that will be participating and that are enrolled in our Leading and Sustaining Systemic Change Collaborative. One example that we can give you that what it may look like for you is your role in a peer coach is we may link you as a peer coach with one of our one-star nursing homes, or maybe a nursing home that may have some special needs or challenging to succeed. So that is one way that you may serve as a peer coach with us as we collaborate together through our upcoming collaborative. So we're going to start with our first polling question. And Jennifer, I'm going to read the question, and then we'll let you open it up for our nursing homes to submit their questions. So, have you formed your peer coach team? So your answers are 1, yes, 2, no, 3, don't have a clue, don't even know where to start. So let's go ahead and open up that poll, and we'll give you just a moment to select. You just need to find your answer with your cursor and click on it, I believe, and hit submit. While you're doing your answers, we are certainly going to give you an opportunity if you are one of those that don't have a clue to start. Your point of contact within your state is certainly going to be helping you as we move forward with this peer coach program.
I think the poll has ended.
Great, thank you. So we'll just you'll give us just a second here to kind of calculate those scores. So we've got some of you that are already those early adopters. We've got a few that have not, and we've got a few that don't really know. So that's given us some great feedback, and we will certainly be communicating with you how to help you get started on that. So we're going to we've got one more poll for you. Have you identified a resident or family member to participate within your peer coach team within your facility? So we'll give Jennifer just a few moments to get that one up. And again, we just ask that you take a moment and select that answer. You've got a yes, no, and again, you just don't know where to start. And then hit press the submit button.
Okay, and that poll has ended, so it'll just take a couple of seconds and we'll know the results.
Okay, and Julie, I want to make sure, does the screen look like half size for you, or do I need to?
Yeah, if you want to make it full screen, you just use that diagonal arrow. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then
now that she's done that, your chat feature will be in the drop down at the top of your screen.
I got it now. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to see that. So great, thank you for your answers. So we've got about 21 of you are yes, and we've got several that are no, and then we have several that have not yet started. So again, that's great feedback for us. Again, your point of contact within your state will be getting with you to kind of guide you through that whole process. So great. Thank you, Jennifer. So for our agenda today, as we shared with you, you will be serving as peer coaches and subject matter experts as we journey together through our Leading and Sustaining Systemic Change Collaborative. So our learning event today is to provide you with 4 topics that we're going to be covering throughout our collaborative. These topics that we're going to review with you today may be things that you're very familiar with as high-performing nursing homes and you're already doing, but we wanted to give this to you, this training to you as a way, as a refresher, showing you what we will be doing throughout our curriculum, throughout the collaborative. It will also be a way for you to see our focus and provide us valuable feedback and suggestions as we launch our collaborative and partner together throughout the 18 months. So our agenda today, Part 1, TeamSTEPPS Peer Coaching, will be presented by Beth Green out of Alabama. The model for quality improvement will be presented by myself, Beth Hersher. Measurement and data is going to be presented by Mae McDaniel from Mississippi. And then adult learning basics will be presented by Julie Clark. We also wanted to give you or share with you 3 evidence-based resources that we're going to be utilizing throughout our collaborative, and it will also be resources that will be available to you as peer coaches. but we did want to give you a little bit of background about a couple of them. They may be new resources that you're not familiar with. We know that quality assurance performance improvement is something that you're pretty well versed in, I'm sure, being a high performing nursing home. But we will be utilizing the CMS tools that they have developed around QAPI. We'll be sharing that with you. We have a dedicated web page where we're posting all of these resources. But Kotter's 8 Steps for Effective Change, this might be a new resource. You may not be familiar with it. So I wanted to give you a little background about that. Kotter's Effective Change Steps is a result of 40 years of Harvard Business School professor John Kotter. And Kotter had engaged in broad and deep studies to investigate why 70% of businesses fail to execute their strategies and only 5% meet or exceed them. So through his years of research, he interviewed and studied real companies and real leaders, and his insights helped him develop these 8-step process for leading change. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that in just a moment. And then we also are going to utilize another evidence-based resource, TeamSTEPPS. TeamSTEPPS was developed by the Department of Defense and the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. You're familiar with AHRQ, I'm sure. And TeamSTEPPS is an evidence-based teamwork system which enables teams to work on improvement around collaboration and communication within their healthcare facilities and their teams. We will be utilizing the long-term version of TeamSTEPPS because that does reflect your nursing home environment. So we're going to have just a little bit of, we're going to pause a moment, and I'm going to have you relax and just listen to a little story that John Kotter, in an effort to develop a fun, easy way for organizations to teach Kotter's 8 Steps for Change, he and a creative co-author wrote Our Iceberg is Melting, and this was based on Kotter's pioneering work and shows how these 8 steps can be utilized by any sort of group. So the book is called, again, Our Iceberg is Melting, and it is a fable about a penguin colony that lives in Antarctica. And this is a group of beautiful emperor penguins they've lived on this iceberg and this colony for many, many years. Until one day, one curious bird discovers that a potentially devastating problem is threatening their beautiful home. And pretty much no one within the colony would listen to him. So the characters in the story are Fred, Alice, Louis, Buddy, and the professor, and of course the one cranky bird referred to as No-No. So we're going to meet these penguins in just a few moments. We're going to kind of share some characteristics of these little fellows and how they work together to form a team to successfully implement Kotter's 8 Steps of Change. So sit back and listen to a little excerpt of the story, and as you're listening, see if you can identify those 8 steps. Once the penguins came to understand that their iceberg actually was melting, they created a sense of urgency in the colony to deal with the difficult problem. They carefully put together a group to charge the guiding change. They found a sensible vision for a better future. They communicated that vision so that others would understand and accept it. They removed as many obstacles as they could. They created a sort of success that would happen very quickly. They never let up until the new way of life was firmly established. And finally, they ensured that the changes would not be overthrown by any stubborn, hard-to-die tradition. So that's our little fable. And now let's meet our characters of the penguin colony. So, Jennifer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just read off the description of the character, and then our audience would like to hear the voices of our character. So as you hear the description and hear from these little penguins, we want you to be thinking, how do I identify with that character? Which penguin do I most relate to? So let's meet the penguin. So Alice was our practical penguin. She was in charge. She got things done. She's very focused. She knows her colony very well. She doesn't back down at all. She's smart, but she's not arrogant. So let's hear from Alice.
Fred, you're right. We have a big problem here. We need to act quickly. I will call a meeting of the leaders of the colony. We need to show them clearly what the threat is to the colony in a way that they can both see and feel the danger.
So that's Alice. You kind of get how her characteristics are. She's going to get things done. So there's Fred, and Fred, he's open to all new ideas. He's pretty curious. He's pretty observant. He wants to please everybody. He's level-headed, and he's pretty creative. And he's always going to volunteer for anything. So let's hear from Fred.
I am very concerned. I know that I need to do something to save my colony. Who's going to listen to me? I'm just an average penguin. I'm nothing special. I know I need to try to make everyone listen, but I'm in no position to make any pronouncements or dictate how others should act. So what do I do?
And then there's Buddy. Buddy is trusted. He's well-liked. He's happy to help. He's not exactly very intelligent, but he's always present, and he's not a very big idea contributor. So let's hear from Buddy.
I'm just plain old Buddy. I don't understand why the iceberg is melting, but I believe you, and if you say you need my help, I'm happy to call my friends and get them to help too. I know that our leaders are trying to do what's best for the colony.
So that's Buddy. He's just willing to do whatever. He may not be a big contributor, but he's going to be there. And then we've got Lewis. He's the head penguin in charge. He's patient. He's wise. He's very conservative. He's calm. He's respected by most everyone on the colony. And he's pretty open to new ideas, but only when supplied with ample evidence that they're needed. So let's hear from Lewis.
I am so proud of the team that came together to bring this problem to our attention. I am proud of the Scouts for braving the exploration to help direct our course. I am proud of the entire colony for sticking together when danger approached and achieving a better future for all of us as a result.
So you get the picture of the head penguin. He's driving the charge. And then we've got No-No. He's the very negative one in the colony. He doesn't like change. He does not like new ideas, even when there's a need for them. His favorite thing to say is, "We have never done that." Let's hear from No-No.
I'm surrounded by troublemakers. Why is everyone running around and threatening to ruin the nice setup we have here on the iceberg? Everything is fine the way it is. This will be a disaster. My blood pressure is going up as I speak. Those Scouts are going to get hurt out there, and then where will we be?
So No-No is very negative. I wonder if we all have had some of those around our place of employment. The last character is the professor. He is very scholarly. He's very intelligent. He prefers working with data and coming up with solutions. He's happy to help, but he's kind of introverted because he loves reviewing the data. So let's hear from the professor.
This is all fascinating. I can plot a chart with the data that the Scouts are collecting and help us determine the best path forward.
Well, now that you've heard the characters and we've given you a little description and you've actually kind of heard from them, we're going to do a little poll now, and we want you to think about yourselves and maybe think about those that are on your team. But how do you relate? Who do you mostly relate with? So we're going to let Jennifer put the polling question up. So your choices are Alice, Fred, Buddy, Lewis, No-No, or the professor. So we kind of want to see who you identify with. We probably have a lot of Alice's out there. Takes just a moment and we'll get our results. The Adam Alliance team, we have yet to take this, so we've got to do this as well. We have to identify ourselves with one of these characters. So that is something that we are going to do too. Oh, I knew it. We got a lot of Alice's. I knew we got a lot of take charge. That's great. And we got a few of you that just didn't really relate to any of them, and that's okay. Oh, and we've got some the Lewis. So we've got a good bunch. We've got some two good characters within our peer coaches. So thank y'all for doing that. This was just a fun way to kind of begin to think about your team, and as you're pulling together your staff to be a part of this peer coach. You know, this story just tells us an important lesson. And if you have an opportunity to get the little book, it's a very cute read. It might be something that you could go ahead and get and work through. It doesn't take long to read it all, but it's an important lesson that when leadership, middle management, and frontline employees are all on the same page with regards to change, it is amazing what can happen despite any adverse condition. So again, as you begin to pull your peer coach team together, begin to ask yourself, who's my champion? Who are my Alice's? Who are my take charge? Or who are our naysayers? Like, who are our no-nos? So we hope that this was fun and gives you a little bit of idea of how to begin to pull your team together. So we're going to move on, and thank y'all for doing that. So the rest of the afternoon, we're going to move into our training modules that we want to provide to you. Now, really, all of this graphic that we have for you really represents a visual of the components that I shared with you that we're going to provide training, and it's really more of a refresher for you. We know that all of you being identified as our peer coaches are utilizing a lot of these components and doing them very efficiently. So this is more of a way to provide a refresher for you. And also for you to have resources to put in your toolbox for mentoring opportunities. So all improvement requires change, and in order for improvement to occur, the system in need of improvement must and does require a driver. So each one of these circles, you can see it is a driver for change. You need data, you need processes, and of course you need people. So the graphic visualizes how these components, which can certainly stand on their own, but when they are interconnected, powerful change can occur. So when we think about leadership and teamwork, effective leadership and teamwork requires good coaching techniques and concepts that need to be embedded into our communication systems as well as in our day-to-day activities. So Beth Green, Quality Improvement Advisor for Alabama, is going to help us dive a little deeper into the leadership and teamwork component of this circle graph to provide you with some basic concepts and techniques around coaching, which is definitely essential to develop a high-functioning team. Beth is a mastered prepared social worker. She has over 20 years' experience in long-term care. She's been with AQAPI for almost 6 years, working with her Alabama nursing home providers. So, Beth, I am going to pass the ball over to you. I will be advancing your slides, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Beth. And we really enjoyed the penguin exercise here. We actually participated.
Good.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beth Green, and let me just say for my Alabama friends, I know that I have red hair in that picture, and y'all all know that I don't have red hair now. So don't y'all think that I went and dyed my hair red again. That really doesn't look like me now. But my name is Beth Green. I'm the Performance Improvement Advisor for Alabama. And as Beth Hersher said, I'll be talking with you a little bit today about your role as a peer coach. And I just first want to also, as Beth did, congratulate you as being recognized as a top performer in your state. And we welcome you as a peer coach for the Nursing Home Collaborative. Next slide, please. Your recognition as a top performer supports Strategy 1 and Strategy 2 from the CMS Change Package, which for those of you who were involved in the 10th step of work, you are probably very familiar with the Change Package. Strategy 1 of the Change Package identifies to lead with a sense of purpose. The action of leaders multiplied by the actions of many shape a culture in an organization. Strategy 1 also sets the expectation for excellence in leadership. The foundation of a learning organization rests upon exceptional executive leadership, strong missions and values, and an accepting, non-punitive culture. Strategy 4 nourishes teamwork and communication, states that teamwork and communication among staff and between staff and residents is nourished by disseminating information in a complete, consistent, and timely manner. Strong communication links people and builds relationships between staff and residents. High-functioning teams respect one another and work interdependently towards common goals. So in order for real change to occur, we know that foundational practices and culture must be in place. As a peer coach, you become a change agent by assisting with the implementation of teamwork initiatives aligned with the National Nursing Home Quality Care Collaborative, and even more specifically, are leading and sustaining systemic change collaboratives. As a peer coach, you have an opportunity to mentor other nursing homes that are challenged in a particular area or areas to make improvement. As nursing home providers, we have all been there at some point, trying to figure out what, why, how to reduce or eliminate antipsychotic meds, how to eliminate physical restraint, and the list goes on and on. But somehow, you figured it out. As a top performer, using process improvement to drive change and success. In agreeing to serve as a peer coach, you have the opportunity to share your successes and best practices as you mentor other nursing homes in your state. Before going any further, we would like you to answer the following polling questions. On a scale of 1 to 5, how valuable do you feel your role as a peer coach will be in providing support among your peers participating in the LSSCC? Number 1, no value. 2, somewhat valuable. 3, valuable. 4, very valuable. 5, extremely valuable. So we'll take a minute to answer that poll. And you're all being, this is a new concept you're all being introduced to, so you may not really know how you feel at this point as far as your value, but we know that you're highly valued or you wouldn't be on this call with us here today. So do we have the responses? We do. All right. So it's kind of kind of equal across the board to some degree, but I'm very thankful to see that none of you think that you have no value. That's great. So 2, somewhat valuable, 7 for valuable and very valuable, 3, extremely valuable. You go, 3. And then we have some that did not answer, and maybe you're still trying to figure out your value, but just know that you're valuable to us. Thank you so much for participating in that poll. And so today, as we talk about coaching a little bit, we're going to look at understanding how team members' knowledge, skills, and attitudes are developed, characteristics of an effective coach, assessing coaches' strengths and areas for improvement, identifying the results of good coaching, and demonstrating and evaluating coaching competencies. Today we will not review coaching strategies on the call, but perhaps we'll look at that at a different time. Okay, so the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of your team are developed by having a clear understanding of your role, be it administrative, CNA, maintenance, activities, etc. Whatever your role is, you have a clear understanding. You have clearly defined tasks and responsibilities, and a high level of commitment and belief in accomplishment of the task and responsibilities. And last but not least, a good understanding of the culture and norms within your facility. Earlier in my presentation, you'll remember that I referenced the CMS change package strategies. This slide clearly aligns with those strategies. Your knowledge, skills, and attitudes, also referred to as KSA, helps promote you to the level of being identified as a high-performing facility. Next slide, please. So as a team member, it's our role to apply teamwork skills to accomplish and fulfill the responsibilities and tasks that we're responsible for each day. To communicate pertinent information to our fellow teammates, as well as to the residents and families efficiently and effectively. For example, letting the resident know when there's been a change in medication. Letting the family know, communicating with the family when there's been a change in condition or status. And it's important that we demonstrate desired behaviors and skills, and that we possess desired attitudes necessary to develop mutual trust among our team members. As a team member, we must also request clarification or additional information as needed and make adjustments to our behaviors based on the feedback that we receive from our team members. The term coaching is used to describe a specific action such as encouraging, reinforcing, giving feedback, and demonstrating. And it's used in both structured and unstructured activities. So think about people in your life, both professional and personal, who have been a coach to you. Did those people demonstrate the actions identified in this slide? If you would think about that for a moment, and then we invite you to share your experience in the chat function. You may also share an experience where you actually feel like you demonstrated these actions as you provided training and coaching to your peers. Julie, will you remind our audience how to enter their comments in the chat feature?
Sure, Beth. So guys, just to remind you, at this point now, your drop-down should be located at the top of your screen. It'll be green and you're seeing viewing to your coach presentation. If you click on that green bar, it will drop down a little box and you'll go over to the chat feature and then go down into, it'll open a box for you, and go down into the chat and share with us maybe a coaching experience that you have given yourself or that someone has given to you, and then send that out to either all attendees or, again, you can send that just to Scott Gibson. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Julie. If you take a moment to share your experiences in chat, we're going to move forward to the next slide, and then we'll come back and check and chat, oh, that's hard to say, and read some of your experiences. So next we want to talk about the role of the coach. And so the role of the coach is a very active process. The coaching process is outlined in the slide you see here in the context of a defined performance improvement need or sustainment goal. So when we think about, for example, QAPI, we know that we have to have our QAPI steering committee, and from the steering committee, we have QI teams that are focused on the identified opportunities for improvement that the steering committee has identified through review of their data. So as a peer coach, you would help your peers and their QI teams establish and clarify goals, develop a plan to accomplish the tasks and responsibilities, and you're not developing the plan, they're developing the plan with your guidance and feedback. Identifying the QI teams, and then encouraging and providing feedback for improvement. And it's so important to acknowledge and reinforce desired behaviors amongst the team members as well. So, Julie or Scott, do we have any coaching experiences shared in the chat function?
I don't see anything at this point.
Okay. Well, we would love for y'all to share, so we'll keep that option available for you. When we think about characteristics of an effective coach, the first one is competence. And competence refers to the degree to which the coach is qualified to develop the skills of the person or the team that he or she is working with. So think about the diversity and selection of your peer coaches. For example, who better to coach a CNA on a task typically performed by a CNA than another skilled CNA? This reminds me actually of the CMS hand-in-hand training toolkit. We rolled that out in Alabama, and I'm sure, feel certain some of the other states did as well. And this toolkit was actually designed in a way that high-performing, respected CNAs could attend the trainer session and in turn teach hand-in-hand to the peers that they work with each and every day. The next characteristic is influence. And influence refers to the ability to affect change. So an effective coach is highly respected among coworkers and has the power, be it formal or informal, to affect change in work patterns and behaviors. And this aligns perfectly with the CNA example that I mentioned above. The CNA who actually takes the hand-in-hand training back to their nursing home has what we would refer to as an informal power to affect change through the training and mentoring provided to other CNAs at the facility. Next is interpersonal style. And this is all about how we communicate. So successful coaching can depend as much on how the information is communicated as to what information it is we are striving to communicate. You know, we probably all had times that because of how the information was being communicated, we completely shut down, therefore not receiving the intended message. You know, was the person loud? Were they critical? Were they abrasive, derogatory? Or perhaps had body language or gestures that was inconsistent with the message that they were communicating. The thing to remember is that effective communication is typically demonstrated through a supportive attitude and ability to build confidence in others. And I believe that we would all agree today that we respond better to this style of communication. The final characteristic identified here is effective feedback. Providing effective feedback is so important in order to improve performance. Effective feedback should include the following characteristics. It should be descriptive, meaning objective and non-judgmental. It should be problem-oriented, providing information aimed at correcting the problem. Empowering, encouraging ownership of solutions. And a great example of this, as far as empowering, is some of our nursing homes, a number of our nursing homes, at least here in Alabama, have included CNAs in their weekly care plan meetings. And this has been particularly noted in working with residents with dementia and those care plans. And the CNA, as we all know, can usually tell you the solution or the intervention to incorporate into the care plan to alleviate behavioral symptoms. So by inviting that CNA to the care plan meeting, you have empowered him or her to take ownership of the solution. And effective feedback should also be exploring, understanding the other person's point of view and being open, not having a narrow focus. And last is considerate, providing feedback that leaves self-esteem intact, and we all like that kind of feedback. Again, think about people in your life who have been effective coaches to you, and think about, which of these characteristics do they exhibit and how it influenced you or how it makes you feel. Okay, moving on to the next slide, which this slide identifies coaching competencies of an effective coach. So in addition to the characteristics of an effective coach that we just reviewed, there are 13 coaching competencies. And these 13 competencies have been divided into 4 broader categories, as you see here on the slide. And as we review these competencies, please think about the category that you have the most experience, as we will ask you to share in a polling question in just a few minutes. So our first broad category is communication. Being able to show the person you are coaching how to actually accomplish the task. Breaking down a task into easy to understand steps that you can articulate. For a CNA, this might involve the steps taken for pressure ulcer prevention, or an LPN, steps taken in treating pressure ulcers. Communication, it involves providing feedback and listening for understanding. We often hear the term return demonstration, and we know that return demonstration allows an opportunity to see and listen for understanding. Next is performance improvement. And this is about setting performance goals, collaborating with others to establish both short and long-term goals for performance. An easy example of this would be perhaps an employee performance appraisal or evaluation. Setting both short and long-term goals has routinely been part of the employee performance evaluations that I've been involved with. And so effective coaching can be as simple as pointing someone in the right directions with these short goals, and then helping the person set broad goals, and then becoming very specific in agreeing on the desired outcomes and how those outcomes will be measured. And it's so very important to reward improvement and deal with failures as well, and encouraging others when they do not meet expectations. Properly identifying the abilities and the interests of the person you are coaching helps direct your coaching efforts to the most needed and critical areas. This is nothing more than assessing strengths and weaknesses. And I'm sure you've all been involved in that in your own facilities and working with your staff. The next category is relationships. And so this is all about building trust, showing respect, acting with integrity and honesty, and motivation. Relationships are actually the cornerstone of effective coaching. And so the person that you're coaching needs to trust that you have his or her best interests at heart. And having this will also encourage open and honest sharing from the person that you're working with or the person you're coaching. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to distinguish what motivates another person. It differs wildly. So, you know, a poor example might be that the chocolate that motivates me may not be what motivates you. I think we all like chocolate, so it probably is. But again, we all differ, and so it's just identifying what that thing is that motivates the person you're working with. The last category is execution. And execution involves timely response to requests. A timely response to a request is a tangible indicator of respect. And so follow through, keeping your commitment, actually helps build and maintain trust. So we would ask you now to take a minute and think about which of the coaching competencies, communication, performance improvement, relationships, and execution, do you feel that you have the most experience? You may feel that you have experience in more than one, but consider the one that you feel like you have the most experience. And we'll take a little time here to complete the polling question. Okay, so I see the poll has ended, and we should be seeing our results here shortly. I know this is kind of a tough question, at least knowing the peer coach homes in Alabama. I can see how you would fall into all of those categories to some degree, but just picking the one you feel most. So it looks like the most we had was communication, next was relationships, and then performance improvement, and then one for execution, and then we have 11 that are undecided. So thank you so much for participating in that poll. This slide just talks in a little bit more detail about the coach as a motivator, which we discussed when we were going over the competency. So we won't spend any more time on this. It's just kind of a recap of the information from the competency. So some quick coaching tips that we would leave you with is to actively assess team performance, provide feedback on performance goals and expectations, acknowledge desired teamwork behaviors and skills through feedback, and coach by example. Be a good mentor. Do not coach from a distance. Stay connected. Do not coach only to problem solve, and do not lecture instead of coach. So we have another polling question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable are you in demonstrating, reinforcing, motivating, and providing feedback to nursing homes as a peer coach? We have a selection 1 through 5, being very comfortable, very uncomfortable to very comfortable. So if you would take a moment and complete that poll, we would appreciate that. Okay, so our poll has ended. And let's see what results we have. So very good that none of you feel very uncomfortable or uncomfortable. So the most that we have is 8 that feel very comfortable. So that's very encouraging. And then we had 12 that did not answer that, but we really want to, one of our reasons for asking this is to be sure that we're helping you gain a feeling of comfort as you participate in the collaborative as a peer coach. So we want to be able to be sure that we're providing this coaching to you to help you be able to do a successful job. So thank you so much for participating in that poll.
Beth, this is Julie. We did have some input on your question for sharing. Would you like to share some of those right now?
Oh, that would be great. Would you share those with us?
Sure. It looks like Emily shared at the beginning that they were able to identify probably some coaching methods to retain staff, such as team building. So thank you, Emily, for sharing that. We have Kathy Moon. She said that during our time working with the quilts program, they were a high UTI rate, and through the coaching and the work with quilts, they were able to get down to 0.02 on their UTI rate. So that's amazing. I told them, way to go. That's great.
That's awesome.
And then I shared something too, but there you go. Thank you guys for sharing.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay, so now you've heard just some basic coaching concepts from TeamSTEPPS and how that aligns with the component on our graph or on our visual here of leadership and teamwork. And so now Beth Hersher, who is the Quality Improvement Advisor for Tennessee, is going to take a little deeper dive into the next component, which is the model for quality improvement. Beth has been with QSource Tennessee for over 10 years, working directly with Tennessee nursing home providers, and proudly holds her certification as a certified professional in healthcare quality. Early in her career with QSource, Beth had the opportunity to participate in the CMS Restraint Collaborative Pilot, which modeled the IHI Breakthrough Series methodology. Nationally, this was the cornerstone for nursing homes to shift from a reactive approach to a more proactive approach within their QA programs. So with that, Beth, I will now turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Beth. We certainly appreciate all of the coaching tips that you provided our peer coaches. So they can take that and utilize them within their own facilities as well as opportunities in coaching others. So thank you for that. So in keeping with our whole colony theme and our teamwork theme, I wanted to start off by sharing an African proverb with you. And it goes like this: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And quality improvement is very similar to this proverb. To create a significant quality improvement, it requires leadership who can inspire the right people around a common goal, create a culture of teamwork. So with the next several slides, I'm going to share with you some basic concepts that effective performance improvement teams use to conduct successful performance improvement projects. I'll be reviewing the Quality Assurance Performance Improvement, or QAPI concepts, which would be root cause analysis and PDSA. Also, we'll be describing for you today the model for improvement. Again, root cause analysis, PDSA cycles, and touching a little bit on the culture of quality. I do want to start by just a refresher. Back in December of 2012, every administrator probably remembers getting this memo from CMS that is having us kind of step up to our quality, if you will. Instead of looking to reactive with our quality assurance or putting out fires, QAPI, we're being charged to really begin to develop our QAPI programs to be more proactive, to utilize all of our team, not just a few of our leadership team, but it's everybody's responsibility for performance improvement. And also, as we know, this will be a pending regulation. CMS has not given us exact date of when this will be enacted, but when it does, we really will have to be able to document our performance improvement, have a plan in place, and also include our residents and families within our QAPI activities. So when we think about the culture for quality and when you have opportunities to perhaps mentor a team, you might want to think about first assessing what their quality, their culture of quality looks like. And this slide just depicts some of those characteristics. Great leadership, we need safety awareness, we need to be responsive, we need to be very transparent in sharing our data and working together as a team, avoiding blame, don't do the pointing fingers, but look at systems and processes, being accountable, and of course teamwork, which is really our theme throughout our training today. I know my colleagues on the webinar with me today can probably share this same thought with me. As we work with our nursing homes, especially our previous scope of work when we were rolling out QAPI, facilities would always say, well, we're already doing it. We're doing QAPI. And as I shared with you that CMS memo that came out, it really asked us to think a little differently than our current thought that we have around the STAG 520, which is really just, very minimum approach that we do for our quality assurance. That is our current regulation for quality assurance. And that tells us to, have a committee around QA and to hold regular meetings and, kind of develop our root cause analysis. But it's very minimal. But QAPI is something different, and we need to know how to sustain it. We need to think about some key characteristics, and you can share this with teams that you may mentor with, to be thinking about standardization, accountable, promote performance improvement projects, something that has to be ongoing. And again, it's not just a few people that need to be responsible. It's the whole team, a whole facility approach. So some coaching tips that we could leave you with on that thought is QAPI is something different. Standardized processes, ongoing performance improvement, and of course, team involvement. Other areas that you have opportunity to coach a team is to have them think about the differences around quality assurance and then performance improvement, because QAPI is a marriage of the two. So when we think of quality assurance and the motivation around quality assurance, you're thinking about measurement, compliance, meeting a standard. But with performance improvement, that is a continuous improvement processes that we need to be looking at in order to meet those standards. When we think about the means for quality assurance, that's usually around inspection, getting ready for that next survey. But when we think about performance improvement, that is where you can mentor teams to be proactive, be preventive, be thinking ahead before something does occur. When we think about attitudes with quality assurance, it's kind of required. It's reactive. But when we think of an attitude around performance improvement, we choose to be that way as a high-performing nursing home. We choose to be proactive. We don't want to wait until we get a bad survey. When we think about our focus with quality assurance, that's kind of looking at those outliers, those bad apples. It's usually kind of pointing a finger at an individual. But when we think about our focus around performance improvement, again, that's around our processes and our systems that we have in place. The scope, quality assurance, it's, we're looking at it as a medical provider, but as performance improvement, it's all about the resident care. Responsibility, quality assurance, we've looked at it as just a few are responsible. Usually that falls on the director of nursing or the administrator. But with performance improvement, the responsibility is everyone. It is, it's not just the responsibility of a few. So as you're mentoring teams, when they think about QAPI, some tips that you could share with them is QAPI can and should be built into their daily structures. Everything from the morning stand-up to department meetings, and even maybe into their daily huddles or on a particular wing or a neighborhood within their nursing home. QAPI is not a separate program that you talk about once a quarter. It should be integrated into your existing structures. So we're going to stop now and do another polling question. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable are you in demonstrating and providing feedback to nursing homes around QAPI? So Jennifer, there's our poll, and if you'll take just a moment to submit your answers, it's from very uncomfortable to very comfortable.
And this is Julie. We've had a few people in chat, and they're having difficulty with the polling. Just a reminder, you need to choose your selection, and at the bottom you hit submit to get that answer in, and you have just about 3 seconds left.
Great. Thank you, Julie. So we'll see our answers in just a moment. So we've got, great, a lot of you are very comfortable. You feel like you'll be very comfortable in providing that feedback. A few of you are very comfortable, and the majority of you look like that you are comfortable. So we're excited about that and know that we are partnering with you. So this feedback will be helpful to us, so that we can continue to provide you the resources and tools needed so that you feel comfortable in mentoring around QAPI. So thank you for taking that poll for us. So the next slide is a resource that's been developed, or it's actually a model that was developed by the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. And it's just a useful framework that will guide improvement teams through an improvement project. And it's really based around 3 fundamental questions. What are we trying to accomplish? How will we know that a change is an improvement? And what changes can we make that will result in an improvement? So when we think about the first question, what are we trying to accomplish? This is an opportunity for you when you mentor a team. If they just don't really know where to start, well, they have to start with an aim or a goal. And so your opportunity to mentor them will be to be able to help them take a look at their data, to look at what priorities they have and what topics they may have that to start an improvement project, and help them with putting together their aim or their goal statement or their target. And that needs to be a clear vision, and we'll get into that in just a moment of what that will look like. And then when we think about how will we know that change is an improvement, that's all around measurement, and that's certainly opportunity to help teams think about what data they need to look at. Of course, that's going to be reflected in what they're trying to improve, and then what data they need to look at so that they can start tracking their progress. And then the third question is, what changes can we make that will result in an improvement? And this is where you see the little plan, do, study, act circle at the bottom. When we think about what changes can we make that lead to improvement, that's where we have opportunity to mentor our performance improvement teams around actually testing their interventions. So what evidence do they have that they need to look at? And again, that's going back to the data that they need to be looking at. And that performance improvement team, I'm sure it's going to have some great idea or intervention that they want to test out during that plan, do, study, act cycle. So that's an opportunity for you as a peer coach to kind of help them look at performance improvement with this very easy framework called the Model for Improvement. So I want to talk just a little bit about and go through each one of those fundamental questions. What are we trying to accomplish? So when you're working with a team that just really needs to go ahead and define their goal or their aim, again, it needs to have some components to it. The aim needs to be stated clearly. It should include a numerical goal that requires a fundamental change to the system. So it's got to have, a percentage to it or a numerical goal. Setting a stretch goal, that's really dependent upon the team if they choose to do that. And then when we think about avoiding aim drift, that's just keeping that aim alive. And that might be done by putting this on an agenda, putting the aim on the stand-up committee agenda item as a standing item so that the team remembers the goal and they don't forget about that goal. So that's very important. And then refocus that aim when necessary. Again, just so that it's forever on the radar, that they don't forget about what it is that we are trying to accomplish. With aim statements, we use the acronym SMART. That's easy to remember for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Those are the components that make up a strong aim statement. That aim needs to answer and be clear about what, how much, and by when. So this is an example of some strong aim statements, and I'll just read these, and I'm sure you've got more that you can think of, but these are just examples. Patient satisfaction, increased number of patients and families rating their overall satisfaction at a 5 on a scale of 1 to 5 to 100% by January 28th. So can you pick out those SMART criteria within that? That's a very strong aim statement that has those components. And then the other example is clinical access. Reduce waiting time to see a physician to less than 15 minutes within 9 months. Again, very specific. So that's coaching tips for you to help a team if they can't quite get their aim statement effective. And then our second question for the model for improvement is, how will we know that a change is an improvement? Again, this is all around the measurement, all around data. So determine which data to monitor routinely. Set targets for performance in the areas you are monitoring. So this is where you might have an opportunity to work with the performance team and make sure that they've got, and they are looking at the right data. Who's going to be collecting that data? So if you're performance improvement team and they're trying to reduce pressure ulcers, you don't want to have the wrong person on the team because you're going to want to have that person on that team that knows which data to look at, who's going to review it, how frequently it's going to be collected and reported. And, why measure? We put this slide in because a lot of teams don't understand, well, why do we have to track data? Because remember, your performance improvement team that you may be coaching may not be the director of nursing. It may be made up of a CNA or, someone that's not familiar, doesn't go to the leadership meetings and doesn't look at the quality indicator report as often as the upper management do. So why do we measure? Of course, it identifies areas that need further investigation, identifies areas that need improvement, evaluate the impact of new changes or a program that may be implemented. So balancing measure, that's something that might be new to a team that you're looking at. And, of course, a balancing measure, as we all know, is an unexpected change. So we want to be tracking that and looking at that doesn't occur. So you have an opportunity to coach and teach your performance improvement teams around data measurement. So the third question is, what changes can we make that leads to an improvement? Well, that's all around the change. And root cause analysis is really the start of performance improvement teams to try to decide what it is they need to change. And so we have a lot of resources that will be on our dedicated webpage for you. If you should need resources to mentor a team around root cause analysis. And then also the PDSA, we have a lot of resources around PDSA cycles as well. But those are the two techniques that we think about when we think about how to equip a team to make effective changes. So we're going to stop just a moment and just take a fun little poll. We just thought this was fun. I'm sure we all know what PDSA stands for, but we're going to just stop for a moment and let you submit your answers around PDSA. Is it plan, demonstrate, sample, assessment? Is it play, do, smile, act? Or is it plan, do, study, act? And we should have the Jeopardy music. I wish we had it, but we don't. We need to implement our Jeopardy music next time we do our polling questions. So the poll has ended, and we'll see what your responses are. We hope we're all smiling as we do implement Plan, Do, Study, Act. Y'all got it. Y'all are just too smart. Plan, Do, Study, Act. That is exactly right. We have a few of you maybe that just didn't hit the submit button quick enough. I know when I participate on these polls, sometimes I don't do that quickly enough as well. So thank you for participating in that fun little poll. So just, again, to think about root cause analysis and the purpose of that is, as we know, is just to try to determine what happened, why it happened, and hopefully to reduce the likelihood of that happening again. It's a process for looking at unexpected events and outcomes to determine the underlying causes or contributing factors and recommend changes that are likely to improve them. So I'm sure we all know that, but again, that's just a resource that you may put on, be able to work with a mentoring team around root cause analysis. The philosophy around root cause analysis is to focus on systems and processes, not individuals, to understand the true problems before taking action. And that really leads us to PDSA cycle. Once a team understands those root causes, they can then begin to put in successful interventions. And we all know that before we implement a change, we certainly need to test it. And that's what Plan, Do, Study, Act is about. It's a way for the performance improvement team to carry out an intervention on a very small scale so that they can test it, make sure that it is reliable, and that it produces the results that they want. So that is what PDSA cycle is all about. And it's fun when we work with our nursing home performance improvement teams, because if they've never used this before, once they kind of get it down pat, it helps accelerate their excitement and morale around a performance improvement project. It's just a simple approach that anyone can apply. It reduces risk because you're starting small, so you want to coach them. I'll give an example of a restraint reduction. You know, when years ago, when we all started the whole restraint reduction effort, when we quality improvement organizations were working with performance improvement teams, we certainly encouraged them not to remove the restraint everyone on the building. You know, you had to start small and make sure that those interventions that were put in place were going to work before you implement it on a large scale. So the next few slides, we're just going to kind of put that PDSA, visualize it for you. And again, because PDSA is something that we test very small, what can we do by next Friday is kind of the thought. You are going back to your fundamental questions. What are we trying to accomplish? So the team is going to go back to that aim, that original aim. And when we're thinking about that PDSA, we want to think about it we want it to be specific, something that the team can measure, be measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So back to those principles, those fundamental questions applies for your PDSA test. So here's an example. What are we trying to accomplish? By December 31st of 2015, our facility will reduce the incidence of pressure ulcers among high-risk residents to 6% or less. So that has got all of the components of a SMART aim statement. Going back to that fundamental question about how will we know that change is an improvement, we will track the incidence of pressure ulcers among high-risk residents by conducting weekly skin audits. Our nurse will do that, and then daily skin checks by our CNA. So again, we're specific, and the team knows exactly what they're going to implement and measure and track. What changes can we make that lead to an improvement? We will document and implement turning schedules for residents with mobility limitations. Again, very specific. The team knows exactly what they're going to do. And then for the PDSA, they may have to do all of that on maybe a week to 2 weeks. And they may have to tweak the plan. They may have to abandon it altogether and start over with a different intervention. But that kind of gives you the idea. And again, with you mentoring facilities, these are just resources and examples that you can certainly use to help mentor a team through that whole PDSA cycle. So we're going to do another polling question for you. On a scale of 1 to 5, how valuable do you feel your role as a peer coach will be in providing support, encouragement, and information around QAPI concepts and principles to your peers participating in our collaborative? And remember, those principles are understanding PDSA cycles, root cause analysis, those fundamental questions, the model for improvement. So how valuable do you feel your role as a peer coach will be in providing that type of support? So our answers are of no value to extremely valuable. And just submit your answer. So our poll has ended. We'll get our answers in just a moment. Extremely valuable. Great. So we kind of felt that this component of our training, everybody is pretty versed with the quality piece, because we know that you're doing that very well because of being your composite scores and being high performers. So thank you for answering that. And this is just going to be, y'all are all going to be our faculty for the quality improvement piece. So that completes our leadership, teamwork, and also our model for quality improvement. And now, Mae McDaniel, Quality Improvement Advisor for Mississippi, is going to review the data component of our circle graph. And we know that data and measurement, as I just shared with you, is a crucial part of testing and implementing changes. Measures tell the organization and teams what is in need of improvement and where the changes they are making actually lead to improvement. So Mae is going to talk about data that you're probably very familiar with, Casper data and MDS data. Mae is a certified MDS coordinator. She has been in long-term care for over 12 years, and she's been with IQH for 2.5 years, working primarily with her Mississippi nursing home providers. So, Mae, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you for laying such a good foundation for this section of our call today. Thanks again to everyone on the call. And like I said, Beth has actually really laid the foundation for us. So on the next slide. To build on what Beth has already shared, we will now apply a basic understanding of MDS, Casper, composite measures in the role of the peer coach. So most of you, this is certainly a refresher. It is nothing new. And so I would love for you to share in chat ways that you're using data in your facility. For instance, one nursing home in Mississippi has developed a scorecard that includes quality measures, staffing grids. They're looking at consistent assignment, and so they're tracking monthly how well they're doing with consistent assignment in their facility. They're also looking at the results of resident, staff, and family member surveys, satisfaction surveys, and other focus areas. So that's just an example of how one facility here in the state using their data. And they look at those scorecards, like I said, monthly, to see how well they're doing in each area. As a high-performing facility, you all realize the importance of using data to track your progress regularly, to set benchmarks, to set goals, to drive your improvement projects. So with that in mind, we have another polling question. And that polling question is, how often do you run your Casper report? And I'll give you 30 seconds to answer that. I just want you to keep in mind, as you share with other facilities during the course of the collaborative, please discuss the ways that you are using data in your quality improvement efforts. I bet that was Julie Clark. Julie, did you get that?
Not, but it made me laugh, whoever did that.
We'll see our results here in just a second. Oh, great. Monthly, that's the answer that we were looking for. And if you're doing it more often than that, great. The question we did not want is only when state's in the building. And because you answered the score on monthly, most of what I'll share today, like I said before, is a refresher, and I won't spend a lot of time on those sections unless there are specific questions. So if you do have questions, please place them in the chat, and Scott or Julie will let me know, and we'll get feedback from you guys. Okay, next slide. Okay, here we have a list of manuals and resources that are must-have for every nursing home. The first one listed here is our resident assessment instrument, which sometimes we call our RAI manual or our MDS manual. I just want to point out here, our coordinator here, our state coordinator here, points out at every MDS training to make sure you have the current copy. And if you are ordering from a vendor, make sure that you go online CMS to make sure you have that update. because as soon as they release the update, it's in effect at that time. On your MDS 3.0 quality measure manual, it is essential that you have those. They list the specifications for each quality measure and the exclusions, which are so important if you are looking at improving a certain area. For instance, I did not realize until we started doing a lot of training here in the state that a lot of people didn't understand the new measure for antipsychotics and the exclusions. And so that manual will help you with your exclusions and your specifications. The quality measure identification number by CMS reporting module, what happens with this is at various times those quality measures may be updated or revised. So when they are, CMS actually tracks them by a new identification measure number. And they also retain the old number, so during that reporting period, they can distinguish the new from the old, and they can be reported simultaneously. We all know about our 5-star rating manual. I suggest that you go out as well on the CMS website and look at that because there's been some updates. Of course, you all know that already to our 5-star rating. And if you are a case mix state, you definitely want your case mix documentation guidelines. It is essential for make sure your documentation supports your coding and that the coding is done correctly because like here in Mississippi, we are a case mix state, and if the documentation is not there, you could actually lose money from your payment system with Medicaid. There's a couple other resources that's not listed here. Of course, Nursing Home Compare, your consumers go out, anybody can go out and see your quality measures there. So you want to know what's out there, and so that you can address questions when you do have residents, families, or residents inquiring why you may have a certain rate or why you may have a certain score on your quality measures. And then last one that I think is essential for every nursing home to have, and not just our administrators and our DONs, but even our NDS nurses and other staff members, you need the Watermelon book. That's that long-term care survey guide. Next slide, please. Okay, what is CASPER data? And I won't spend a lot of time on these slides since you all are high-performing homes. I'm sure you're looking at your CASPER data on a regular basis. But CASPER is Certification and Survey Provider Enhanced Reporting. This is a program within CMS Quality Measurement and Evaluation System. It is password protected and it is a secure site. This system also supplies a large variety of detail and summary reports to nursing homes, state agencies, the QIOs, central and regional office CMS staff, and it allows identification and management of quality improvement opportunities. So rich resource for you to pull those and look at those, like I said, at least monthly. And I also want you to keep in mind that the NDS reports are automatically purged after 60 days. Okay, next slide. To calculate your QMs, it's very simple. You take your denominator, which are your residents with problems, and you divide that by your denominator, and that's all residents who could have the problems, and you multiply by 100 to get an example. Just a simple, to get your calculations for your QM. A simple example of that is if you are a 60-bed facility, you have 12 residents in your home that have restraints during the reporting period, that's going to be 20%. That's what that percentage will be for your residents with restraints in your facility. Next slide. Who uses the QMs? Well, they were developed by the National Quality Forum and CMS. The CMS CASPER uses 17 quality measures. The Nursing Home Compare, which we talked about just a few minutes ago, where your consumers can go out and see. There's 18 quality measures there. Your 5-star rating system uses 9. And the survey process, what they do is prior to coming into your facility, they'll pull your CASPER report, and they will identify residents that they will use in their sampling when they come into your facility. The newest QM user here is the National Nursing Home Quality Care Collaborative Quality Composite Measure Score. That's a mouthful. They use 16 of your quality measures there. And we will certainly be using those with this collaborative. And you will be getting those from your QIO if you haven't already. Next slide, please. Okay, the survey process, we just talked about that. And one thing that you really want to look at when you look at your CASPER report, where are you in the rankings as far as the national comparison group? And if you're scoring 75% or higher than that, then that's going to be a potential problem area that you really need to look at. Your resident level hearing report selects appropriate resident sample for investigation when they come in, like I said earlier. And the new guidance in Appendix P released, and I'm sure they've had another update since we've done these slides, for September of 2012 and May of 2013. Okay, the non-5-star quality rating measures are here. You have 7 that are long stay, and that's self-reported moderate to severe pain. And I bring that one up, I pointed that one out because a lot of times I go into a facility and they'll say every time we go in, this resident is complaining of pain. Well, to get that score down, you have to make sure that you have interventions in place prior to that assessment or that interview. You need to make sure that you're doing something on a regular basis with those residents who have a common complaint of moderate pain so that you can document your interventions for pain management. Next slide, please. And then the next slide, you have 2 short stay measures and your 5-star rating. And again, it references right here on our slide about your technical user guide. Okay. Then the 17 CASPER measures, QMs are listed here. You have 14 long stay and 3 short stay measures with that one. I want to just point out here on the 17 CASPER QMs and even with our composite scores, we all had a discussion earlier this week about what we're seeing as far as the quality measures and the composite scores across the state. And we identified that there are 3 measures that we're seeing that are high rates for almost every state in the collaborative, in our alliance. And those are antipsychotics, your loss of bowel and bladder, and the need for increased ADL score. So my next polling question is, of the following QMs, of the following QMs, which one of your facilities have you seen the most improvement? And we'll give you 30 seconds to answer that poll. We're waiting for the results here. I'm excited to see what they are. Oh, great. That's very encouraging. We are having facilities that are really struggling to get the antipsychotic measure down, so we will definitely need your expertise in sharing with those facilities. The ADL score and incontinence, what I've been telling everybody in the facilities that I go in, those 2 scores actually require a lot of preventive measures, putting things in place, assessing our residents more frequently in order to prevent those declines, because once those residents lose bowel and bladder control or mobility or ability to care for themselves, sometimes it's pretty hard to recover those. So those 2 specifically need some preventive measures in place for our facilities. The next few slides go over things that I know that our facilities on the line are very well aware of. You already know the difference between short stay, long stay. If you're looking at your reports monthly, you all know about the facility reports, the resident level reports, your facility characteristics, and your submission statistics. One thing I will say about these reports, I would encourage you to get with your MDS nurse and make sure that she has the support that she needs, that she has the education that she needs, that she's pulling those validation reports, looking for missing assessments, and that she has a backup, that she has someone who can step in, not just so she can take a vacation or attend a meeting, but if she needs a break. This job as an MDS nurse is it's very time consuming. It can be very tedious because you have to really pay attention to details. And I just encourage every administrator that's on the call or DON to make sure that your MDS nurse has the tools that she needs to do a good job. I have a coworker here in Mississippi that was once a surveyor, and her thing is when she talks to MDS nurses is that bad data in means bad data out. So she needs to make sure that she's getting the documentation from the staff that she needs, and there needs to be a lot of training of the staff, frontline staff, everyone on how to speak MDS. I mean, it's just crucial. And I was at an MDS training actually last week, and they're talking about an actual CMS survey strictly on MDS. So just a heads up, make sure your MDS has what she needs to do her job effectively. Beth, that was good. You can keep going through those slides. I believe everybody on this call knows what those reports look like. I do want to talk about exclusions a little bit. I did mention the quality measure.
But we are kind of pushing to the top of our time.
Aren't we?
So so if you want to just because we have one more module.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I'm good with that. Like I said, I believe these high performing homes probably could teach this section to me. So now I will go on to Julie Clark, who's going to talk about adult learning. Now that we've completed our preview of our drivers to change, drivers, leadership and teamwork, the model for quality improvement and data, Julie's going to present on adult learning. Julie is with QSource in Tennessee. She is a licensed physical therapist assistant. She has 10 years of experience in long-term care as a rehab manager and a treating PTA. Julie has passion for reducing restraint. She's developed a seating and positioning tool that has actually been used here in Mississippi. And Julie has been with QSource for 3 years, working with the Tennessee nursing home providers. Julie?
Thanks, May. And sorry, guys, we're just trying to keep you on time here with our presentation. So I'll move quickly, and then we'll have some time for some question and answers. So as a peer coach, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. As a peer coach, you will be mentoring and teaching adults, and adults learn differently than other age groups. This final presentation today will cover effective adult learning principles that will give you more tools for your peer coach tool belt. So as we move through this presentation, I'm going to ask you to be identifying yourself in these key principles like you did earlier with TeamSTEPPS Penguins. Next slide. Our objectives for the adult learning principles presentation today is to describe common characteristics of adult learners and to explain the CPR approach used in adult training, and also to identify 3 essential elements required for knowledge transfer into practice. Next slide. Next slide, please. This slide reviews the characteristics of an adult learner. Research has shown that certain teaching techniques enhance training provided to adults. We want you to keep these characteristics in mind as you prepare for your peer coaching moments that may include speaking on an Adam Alliance webinar or maybe a state-specific teleconference with a group of nursing homes or even a single nursing home. These following characteristics are common to adult learners. They are self-directed, Their orientation to learning tends to be task or problem-centered. They're motivated by internal incentives. They learn best in a climate that is relaxed, collaborative, and mutually respected. And they also learn best through activities that have immediate application to life's tasks. Next slide. So moving forward, we can discuss the CPR approach by Bob Pike that explains three important aspects of teaching adults. These aspects include content, participation, and reinforcement. The CPR approach meets the needs of the adult learner and ensures that there is effective transfer of what is being trained. Next slide. Now we can dive into it a little deeper, and we'll cover content first. So for an adult learner, content will be more powerful if it links goals with local problems. It's the what's in it for me. As a peer coach, you will be covering this by mentoring nursing homes on what they have found to be difficult for them during our collaborative work. An example may include helping them understand TDSA cycles and how to carry them out. The next section on content brings the point that using personal examples will exemplify your teaching points. As a peer coach, we know based on this point that your past experiences will be beneficial in mentoring the nursing home staff. The final bullet point states that as an adult educator, you should only use examples of actual events. Each of you has a vast collection of experiences that have gotten you to where you are, so I know this point will be easy for you to follow. Next slide. Moving on, we can look at the point of participation. Your peer coaching interactions with the nursing home staff should happen in an appropriate coaching environment. Like I stated earlier, we expect most of your peer coaching interventions will take place over phone conversations or maybe during an Adam Alliance webinar. Asking your adult learners to find a quiet area with instructions to hold interruptions will be key in keeping their focus on what is being shared. I also muted all your phone lines today. That was in an effort to provide you with a good environment for learning today. The next point explains that your adult learner will find the learning experience to be more useful if they share their own personal experiences. Letting your adult learner express their personal struggles or letting them celebrate their wins will build their participation level in the learning process. Of course, we've utilized this point many times today during the webinar by asking you to share on a polling question or chat box. We're kind of sneaky that way. We're using these techniques. The next point shares that engaging adult learners in practical exercises and allowing for questions and answers time also builds on their level of participation. Next slide. Finally, let's look at the key point of the R in CPR, which is reinforcement. To enhance carryover of what your peer coach taught during your mentoring to the nursing home staff, you may need to instruct them to mark central key concepts in their notes. You may even need to recall these concepts for them in a short recap of what was covered. Our circle graph was our reinforcement to you today during the webinar. Next, looking at reinforcing key teamwork actions at the end of each module or learning session would include placing a next step slide in your presentation or maybe asking the nursing home staff member to tell you what their next steps are based on what you covered during your mentoring session. The third bullet covers clarifying the objective of each practical exercise during its facilitation. If you are putting a presentation together for a peer coaching moment, you would review the objectives at the beginning of your presentation. On a call, you may simply just state what you'll be covering. We've done this, of course, all the way through these presentations today. Finally, under reinforcement, if you share a video during peer coaching mentoring sessions, you'll want to reinforce the information that was shared in that video. So I have a polling question, Jennifer, you can open up. It's just a quick one. I want to see if you've caught what does CPR stand for. So choose A, B, or C. Is it content, practice, relevance? Is it B, content, participation, reinforcement? Is it C, content, performance, reward? By utilizing these types of polling questions, we're driving home key points that we've shared with you, which is also good for the adult learner to review. Sorry, Scott, you weren't able to play your music because I talked through this. So the poll is going to end here shortly. I never am out of words to say, so just a few more seconds and we'll find out what your answers were. And based because we are on a time constraint, Beth, go ahead and go to the next slide, and then when the results pop up, they'll just show up on the screen. So next slide. There you go. This is an interesting slide, and it's informing us how effective continuing education is in long-term care. We can see from this information that a study conducted by gerontologists in 2003, conferences, workshops, and other educational venues spark enormous energy, but studies show that very little of the information acquired there is transferred into practice on the floor of the nursing home. In-services can die the same fate. Just think about it. How many times have you yourself gone to a conference and heard great ideas, and then you get back to the nursing home, and transferring that knowledge into practice becomes difficult. So here's our answers. You guys did great. Thank you for participating in that polling question. Get that off my screen. This next slide, thank you, Beth. Looking at the percentages in this slide, what comes to your mind? Do you agree with it? Each of us learn in different ways, so some of you may not agree with the breakdown. My experience is that, yes, I agree with this list. I learn so much more and retain it much longer if I teach others. The fact that I'm teaching you about adult learning today has increased my knowledge and carryover of understanding this topic, and I'm driving my partners crazy at Adam Alliance with my knowledge on this now. So can you think of a topic that you've taught to someone else? Do you feel you have a stronger understanding of that topic now because you taught that to them versus learning it into a conference? Next slide. So transferring knowledge into practice is an art. Our goal of improving healthcare quality is to help learners to transfer that information into high-quality action on the floor, neighborhood, or unit. Moreover, the desired action has to be the correct action. We know this is difficult to accomplish, so let's look at some strategies that can help you as a peer coach be more effective in helping nursing home staff transfer knowledge into practice. Next slide. These are the three essential elements being used globally to help transfer knowledge into practice. Now, Beth Green shared a little bit about KSA earlier in her presentation, and we're going to get a little bit more in detail with it right now. So knowledge, skill, and attitude. Knowledge is going to beg the question, do they know? And skill is going to ask, can they do it? Attitude begs the question, are there issues of behavior or attitude interfering? So after you have educated your adult, this is how you're going to know if they are prepared to transfer their knowledge into practice. Next slide. Knowledge, we'll get a little bit more detail with knowledge. As a peer coach, you will know your adult learner understands or has the knowledge they need if they can list, recognize, or define back to you what was shared or taught during your peer coaching moment. So an example on my end would be that I am a PTA, and in my therapy sessions, I use these techniques during my patient and family education session. We call it a teach back. If I teach a patient how to safely transfer from bed to chair, I will have also taught them the steps to complete the transfer and also the safety hazards they need to watch out for. So after I have taught them all of this, I will know they have the knowledge if they can list the hazards or maybe cite the steps of a safe transfer. Next slide. Here's a bit more on skill. After your coaching moment with the nursing home staff, you will know that they have the skill required to carry out the knowledge into practice if they can demonstrate, interpret, or measure the new information, task, or tool you taught them. Continuing with the therapy session of teaching safe transfer techniques to a patient, the next step to ensure that they have the skill needed to perform a safe transfer, I would have the patient demonstrate that proper technique in front of me. At this moment, I sure need to refrain from my verbal cueing because I'm checking to see if the patient has the skill, not if I have the skill to cue them. So if the patient completes the transfer in front of me without my verbal cueing, at this point I would know they do have the skill. Next slide. The final section of KSA covers attitude element. As you look at this slide, you can see examples of attitude statements. I don't have enough time. She never listens anyway. I'm afraid I'll screw it up. It's not my job, and I've got nothing to learn from her. And I learned all that in nursing As we all know, attitudes can impact efforts in change and learning. Overcoming these attitudes can be challenging. As a peer coach, we want you to understand your nursing home staff member or the staff they are about to engage in change may have some of these attitudes come up. So to share an example of the attitude element with the therapy patient and caregiver, new safe transfer techniques, I can assure you I have heard many attitude statements that impact if the patient or caregiver performs or accepts the knowledge that I have shared with them. Common statements that I may have heard would include, I've done it this way my whole life, why do I have to change? Or I can't do it, or maybe I will let my caregiver do it for me, and so on. Attitudes are everywhere, and we need to understand this so we're not surprised when they are expressed. Next slide. And this is my next polling question, Jennifer. You want to go ahead and open that. So what does KSA stand for? Did you catch that when I talked about it? Is it A, knowledge, skill, attitude? Maybe it's B, kinesthetic, standard, and auditory, or C, keeping, sweet, apples. Okay, maybe it's not that one. So let's take a moment for that to process, and while they're doing that, Beth, you can go ahead and move on so we don't get caught up in the time. So next slide, and then there you go. Adult learners take in information in an array of styles. Each adult learner will be more engaged if the learning process is their style and it's being shared in the event that they're attending. That's why many educators encourage an array of learning options. We've utilized all of these learning styles in our presentation today. Do you know which one you connected with best? Before you answer that, let me tell you a little bit more about each of those. So let's look at your polling. Oh, you guys are so smart. Look at that. Nobody got the wrong answer. Good job. So next slide. Let's look at our visual learners first. We know that these adults prefer information that is shared in a visual format, including maps, photos, drawings, imaging, and even highlighting. These learners need time to think before they understand the information fully. So during this presentation today, we have included maps and graphs. We also have the option for you to print off the PowerPoint and have it in front of you. Are you a visual adult learner? Did you print the PowerPoint and take notes? Did you connect with the map and graphs as your favorite section of the presentation today? If so, you might be that visual adult learner. Next slide. Auditory learners. So those are the strong auditory end of the spectrum, taking information by listening. These adult learners learn by hearing, remembering names easily, recalling conversations, and can verbally present information in an organized manner. These are people who listen to lectures with great delight. So does the adult learning style of auditory describe you? Can you recall information without even taking notes? Do you like to have the radio playing while you're studying or paying bills? If so, you may be the auditory learner. Next slide. Kinesthetic learners. They are the ones who learn best by doing. They are the hands-on people, and they like to use tools. They are the people who watch and hear something shared, and then they can't wait to get their hands on it to try to do it. Does this adult learning style describe you? Do you tell someone that is teaching you a new computer program maybe that you need to sit at the keyboard so you can understand it? Do you want to get your hands on the new device you're being taught to use? Well, let me tell you, this one's definitely me, and I almost push people out of my way so that I can get my hands on what is being taught. If I don't do that, I have a harder time recalling what was shared. We've used this style in the presentation today by having you be active in those polling and chat features. Next slide. Our digital learners, this is the final learner. The final adult learning style of digital learners is on the rise. These adult learners learn best by watching and listening on electronic devices. They like to use the internet, tablets, computers, and cell phones or other media. They prefer webinar presentations, videos, smartphone apps, and web-based tools. What's interesting with this adult learning style is that these learners really like to be able to review things electronically. Reviewing electronically allows them to back up, speed forward, click on things that they like to get more information on. Maybe this adult learning style is more what you connect with. Do you like to download information or have a website to visit? Do you go back on review to review recordings so you can better understand the information? And of course, we've provided this adult learning style in today's presentation because it is a webinar. There are links to review, and you are calling in on your phone. So my final polling question here, this was like Speedy Gonzalez. I hope I did good. This polling question, I want you to identify what learning style you relate to best as an adult learner. Are you our visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic, or digital learner? So take the time to choose which one you are. Hopefully we have some digital because we kind of overloaded you with that. And while that's wrapping up, Beth, I just want them to know I hope this information on adult learning principles, including KSA and CPR, along with the adult learning styles of auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and digital, has helped you gain some tools for your tool belt as you mentor the adult learners in the nursing home. Okay, great. So what do we got? We got some visual. We got a lot of visual learners. Great. Auditory, kinesthetic, and one digital. Oh, no! I guess we're doing okay. We kind of included all of those aspects in today's presentation. Thank you guys so much for being engaged and participating in all these polling questions and the chat feature. We appreciate that a lot. And I am certainly looking forward to working with each of you as a peer coach for our nursing homes. Beth, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you for a quick wrap-up.
Great. Thank you, Julie. And you are a Speedy Gonzalez. So that was some great information. I think the facilities hopefully can utilize some of that back with not only in our own individual facilities, but as we begin to grow together and develop our coaching skills. So thank you, Julie. Well, we do want to wrap things up. We appreciate your patience. We appreciate your engagement with us today. You guys rock. Y'all are awesome. And thank you, Scott, for supplying our music for us as we did our polling. In just a few short weeks, Adam Alliance will launch our Leading and Sustaining Systemic Change Collaborative, and we're going to be using 3 focused approaches for nursing home improvement. We're going to be promoting the adoption of Quality Assurance Performance Improvement, or QAPI, and we'll be utilizing peer coaching teams to assist not only our one-star nursing homes, but anyone who may be struggling or challenged to succeed throughout our collaborative. We'll be engaging nursing home providers, beneficiaries, our partners, our stakeholders across our Adam Alliance and our communities in an integrated multi-state learning and action network, leveraging this new breakthrough collaborative methodology that we shared with you today. We look forward to building our peer coach program with you as we partner together to assist and equip our nursing home leaders in achieving their improvement goals and developing high-functioning teams within their facilities. So to wrap things up, we want to give you some next steps for what you should be expecting. We, again, want you to identify a peer coach team within your facility. We hope that it includes at least one of the following: a resident, family member, or perhaps a resident representative. Also, as you look at your champions within your direct care staff, we would like for you to pull together a diverse level nursing home team, not only just the administrator and the DON. As shared earlier, maybe it's a great CNA, maybe it's a passionate MDS person, maybe you've got someone in the business office that can just really be a champion on your team. So we want you to be thinking about that and identifying your teams. Participate in peer coach activities arranged by your lead within your state. Not only are we going to do these activities like this today across our Adam Alliance, but you'll be working closely with your lead within your state. And then, as we've shared also today, we're getting ready to launch our Leading and Sustaining Systemic Change Collaborative. And that virtual kickoff occurs on April the 23rd. And that invitation has gone out. You should have gotten that to register for that. So those are our next immediate steps for you. And I don't know, Julie, if we'll open the phone lines. If anybody has a question, we certainly want to take your questions. We know we've kind of pushed over our time, but we do want to stop let you unmute and see if there are any questions that we have.
I have unmuted the phone line, so if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask those. If you don't have any questions, you may want to mute your phone right now so we don't pick up on your background noise. Does anyone have any questions?
April 23rd is the kickoff, Renee. April 23rd is the kickoff. April 23rd. Okay, Julie, why don't you go ahead and mute the lines. If anyone has a question that they want to put in chat, we will definitely get back with you on that. We wanted to also give you some resources. I want you to know that we have developed a dedicated web page. You'll see that URL right here. It's www.adamalliance.org/LSSCC. That's a lot. We'll be getting that out to you via email if you don't already have it. This particular PowerPoint presentation is already uploaded on that dedicated web page. It is private. You can only get to it from that address. So but we will certainly be getting that out to you if you don't already have it.
Just a second, we did get a question from Jennifer. She wants to know if they can print the slides.
And yes, we are posting that on our dedicated web page. And as soon as this event is over, your point of contact from your state can get this information to you via email so that you have it, so that you can go to that web page and the PowerPoint presentation is uploaded there. So thank you for that question. And do you have any others, Julie, or Scott?
No others yet. But if anyone has a question they want to, we're going to go ahead and let you just put it in the chat because we were getting a lot of background on the other calls. Christine is asking, can you tell me what the last step was for Kotters in his 8-step test? I guess that would be you.
Yes, and you're going to make me have to go back to my notes. We also have that information that we will have as a resource posted on that dedicated web page, but that is about the culture, about making sure that you sustain your change in embedding it into your culture, ensure that changes would not be overcome by stubborn, hard-to-die traditions. And thank you for that question.
Great. Yep. No others quite yet, but guys, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box and I will read them, just because we were getting a lot of background noise. Christine said thank you.
And we've put the contact information. We know we've got the multi-state providers are on this call today, so we have listed your point of contact within your state, and you see that here. Again, we'll have this information posted on this dedicated web page so that you can have that information. But we certainly have enjoyed being with you today. We are so much looking forward to our program. And Julie, if we don't, or Scott, if we do not have anything else in our chat, we want to be cognizant of your time. We know this was a lengthy call, but we wanted to provide you with this refresher training, and we are looking forward to getting your feedback and how we can improve, because we certainly want to improve our opportunities that we provide for you as well, our educational events. So thank you for that. There will be a survey evaluation that will come. What will happen is when this event is over, the WebEx folks will send out a little thank you, and that is going to have a link for you to click on to access a survey evaluation, and we certainly will appreciate getting feedback from you. So, Adam Alliance team, if you have anything to say, feel free to do so, and I think we can let these folks go.
We don't have any other questions left in the chat box, so I think we are good there. But like Beth said, get a hold of your point of contact if you come up with a question later on and want to get an answer to that. Thank you, everyone, for staying past the hour, staying engaged, and giving us great feedback that we will be able to use moving forward. Y'all are wonderful.
And Julie, just let the other states, Alabama, Mississippi, or Kentucky, you guys want to say anything?
Thanks, Beth. This is Beth Green, and I just want to thank everyone for being on the call today and your engagement. And we really, really do want your feedback for future planning. Thanks so much. You guys are great. And shout out to Alabama.
Thank you for your time to all our peer coaches in Mississippi.
Yes, and thank you for your time. This is Scott.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Go back to doing what you do best, taking care of our elders across our states. We will be seeing you guys soon. Have a great day.
Bye.